breaking news. Brandon Aiyuk did post, I think it was yesterday, on his story, a picture of it was like his son and his legs in a taking a flight with the destination saying Bay Area. And I was gonna ask you, Steph, because all summer I feel like I've been kind of on like BA watch and been like, okay, where is he now? Like, where did he buy this house? Where is he training? Where are they going to? Listening to I know everyone got very excited last week about the little clip that was obviously staged that they put out on TikTok, but I feel like for us, I've been like keeping track of their TikToks all summer, kind of trying to figure out where their head is at. There being Brandon Aiyuk and his family. But so I was originally going to ask you, why does BA want us to know he's here? Because it's felt like everywhere else he's been, he's not tagging the location. They're purposely not specifying. I know him and his girlfriend did like a Q&A on her YouTube channel that was mostly about like fashion and stuff, but she definitely got some questions that she would then read out loud, but then they'd be like, hee, we can't answer. So I thought prior to the news that we got from Ryan Clark 30 minutes ago, I was like, oh, well, like it seems interesting to me that this is something that Brandon Aiyuk doesn't want us guessing on. He wants fans to know he's in town. And I guess my initial takeaway was, does this mean that he's signing? Then obviously with a little bit of further, thought process, I was like, it's kind of early on within this dead season that the Niners normally get this in. Now Ryan Clark comes out and says that Brandon Aiyuk is the one that demanded this meeting. He is going to be meeting the 49ers. He's not just here to get some mission style burritos, which I wouldn't blame him if he took a, private jet to San Francisco just to get some good Mexican food. But no, he is in fact here to meet with the 49ers. And I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but from what we've heard from Ryan Clark reporting today, it doesn't seem like he's here, at least initially, to sign a new deal, which, I know they like to take the photo of them signing. So I thought maybe that would be it. But instead, it was reported that Brandon Aiyuk has been taking these negotiations personal, that his first choice is to be with the 49ers and to sign with them, but that he's open to playing for other teams if they don't want to pay him. And so then that got me thinking, when I'm thinking about timing for the offseason, maybe he's like, hey, if you're going to trade me, I want to do training camp with my next team. I want to start getting acquainted. So like, let's get this going. Anyways, that was a lot to start it off without bouncing the ball to you. My bad. Got a little selfish there. But what was your takeaway seeing Brandon Aiyuk's story yesterday? And then 30 minutes, I saw on Twitter, it was Ari who posted the quotes, or some of the quotes from Ryan Clark. I think he was talking on his show.
Yeah, I think when I saw that Brandon Aiyuk was coming to town, I didn't think too much of it. It could just be that we're getting closer to the start of training camp and he's maybe anticipating that a deal would maybe get done soon. But I didn't feel like that meant like, oh, definitely something's going to happen. Now, what we do know now is that something is going to happen, just not the deal probably right away, right? I mean, he requested to speak with the 49ers, which, I kind of take this as a could be bad, could be good thing. I mean, it all depends on how the 49ers react to this conversation. I mean, obviously, Brandon Aiyuk has been feeling a way about how this negotiation has gone to this point. I mean, going on TikTok and a number of other things that he's done in this entire offseason, but just going on TikTok and airing out the dirty laundry, so to speak, I think just kind of shows that that's his venting process for what he's kind of been experiencing this offseason. So obviously, I think we've kind of figured that he's not happy with how negotiations have been going to this point. He wants people to know that. And now he wants the 49ers to know that for sure. So I don't know what the conversation is going to be like. Like, is he going to be requesting a trade, right? I think if anything, it seems like Brandon Aiyuk giving the 49ers an ultimatum of sorts. And we've been saying this whole time, like he doesn't have any leverage. He doesn't have any leverage. He has a very tiny bit, right? But this exercising this and going to the 49ers and saying, I want to meet, like, either trade me or sign me like right now. I would say like that does give him some leverage in this because the 49ers have to make a decision at that point out of respect to him, what they then want to do. So I think 49ers were waiting until a training camp to call his bluff, basically. And Brandon Ayuk's like, no, I'm not waiting that long. So yeah, I guess we're gonna get an answer to all this, I think, pretty soon.
Well, that's funny because I was like, maybe that little skit that he did for TikTok did work. Maybe the 49ers, called him up and was like, "Hey, like we don't want you disgruntled. Why don't you come down here? Let's get some talks moving." But then, Ari Mirov, and for people who don't have Twitter, I want to learn how to put it up on my StreamYard. So stay tuned. By next week, I'm gonna have that part figured out. But Ari Mirov reports 49ers wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk told Ryan Clark that he's been taking negotiations personal and the offers so far have affected him. Brandon Ayuk's first choice is to stay with San Francisco, but he's comfortable playing elsewhere if they're willing to trade him. And then basically says Brandon Aiyuk is going to meet the 49ers right now. So I like that what you're saying. And by the way, a meeting that he requested. So my initial thought that maybe they saw that and it had some sort of effect that Brandon Ayuk might have been, wanting, like, hey, 49ers, like I want you to see that, because I think maybe there was conversations, right? Like, is he taking this seriously or is he having fun and kind of just messing with fans? And I feel like my takeaway from Brandon Ayuk saying he's requested this meeting with the 49ers and he's taken offers personal is maybe he was trying to, symbolize to the 49ers that I am like unhappy and I didn't like your most recent offer. And by saying, they don't want me or whatever, it sounds like he was indeed trying to communicate a message to them and maybe they didn't get it, so he was like, fine, you're not calling me, I'm calling you, let's get this. And I do think that's kind of a big deal. I know when Deebo Samuel was going through his contract negotiation thing, one of the things that Kyle Shanahan, when he was asked about it, said was like, well, I'm not worried about it yet because I haven't even called Deebo. And my initial thing when I saw Brandon Aiyuk is there meeting them face to face is like this isn't something they could have done over the phone. It's serious enough that Brandon Aiyuk wants them to sit down and take this to, in my opinion, he wants them to know he means business. He takes this seriously. He's not trying to, wait till the beginning of training camp. He wants to know, hey, do you value me? How much do you value me? That type of stuff. It seems definitely, went about it different than Debo did, but definitely maybe even like the I'm taking this personal and the offers have affected him. He requested a meeting. Doesn't that almost sound symbolic of Kittle and his agent saying that it was a massacre, Valentine's Day massacre, and that he was taking those initial offers really personal? I don't know why the 49ers don't haven't why haven't they learned from their negotiation strategy? It doesn't feel like do they win these deals? It doesn't feel like they
Winning the deal is getting it done. I mean, to the
I agree,
49ers.
but like I could see, like, say they're like, okay, we put these guys through hell, but then they play super great when they're signed, and we get them like very discounted. So it's worth all the extra stress. To me, it feels like they kind of end up paying the player around what they initially, were projected to want. And the player usually has a down season. Like, why do the 49ers, like, if Brandon Ayuk is telling Ryan Clark that these offers are affecting him, like, why are they doing this to the star players? Like, you shouldn't be negatively affecting your star players when you want to win a Super Bowl that season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we all could definitely uh critique the way the 49ers go about these signings. I mean, dragging it out always to like the 11th hour of the off season, as we've seen so many times, while at the same time, it kind of gives us solace. It's like, hey, don't worry, everyone, the deal's going to get done. It always gets done around July. I mean, at the same time, like, I think we also hate that it takes that long for a variety of different reasons that players have expressed, that we've seen the market like fluctuate and kind of explode for a lot of different positions every time that they kind of wait. And we've seen that with the wide receiver market this offseason as well, with a bunch of guys getting deals. And I think that has added to the Brandon Aiyuk frustration and him feeling like, hey, like, what about me? All these other guys are getting deals and you guys aren't even offering me what these guys are making. And I'm not even talking about the Justin Jefferson. I think we know no one's touching that. I'm talking about like Jalen Waddle, and even Amon-Ra St. Brown in that range that I think Brandon Aiyuk wants to get to. And if that 26 million numbers has been the number, like, yeah, that's lower than what those guys are getting. So I think it's just added to Brandon Aiyuk's frustration. I don't know why the 49ers continue to do things that way. I feel like it doesn't have to be that way, but who knows? I also don't know, what players come in wanting. It just feels like the 49ers like to have the players sweat it out, basically, and have the players ready to accept less than what they were originally wanting just for the sake of getting it done, late in the off season.
I agree. And I want to say, Richard Walker says, I don't have any social media. You guys broke the news to me when I got the notification. So just so you know, like in order, the way that I saw it was initially Ari, Mirov on Twitter putting out a tweet. And then I think Adam Schefter wrote that the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk were meeting basically as we're streaming right now. So we might, I don't know how these things get out. Maybe the agents might want to hold it depending on if there's a real resolution or if their resolution is we're going to continue negotiating. I wanted to say, so I'm just saying we could get news literally, right now today, or it could be something that continues for the rest of this offseason. I do feel like BA is pushing the issue by demanding this meeting. However, the
Mhm.
49ers, they could still just say, we want to continue negotiating with you and we'll definitely, do that in good faith. And we want you to feel wanted and to play as hard as you can. And we want to support you doing that. And they could still end up trying to make him play on his 5th-year option, right? Or do you think maybe he's going there to tell them, like, hey, if this is your guys' plan, I will hold out for the 11 games. Like maybe he's trying to kind of, because I think a lot of people, even within our comments, have said he doesn't really have leverage right now. The 49ers have all the
Mhm.
leverage. It feels like at first he was playing a little bit of social media games to gain some leverage. Maybe this is him kind of being like, all right, beating around the bush isn't working. I'm gonna take it to your face and I'm gonna try to uh play my next card. Maybe like was keeping the king till the end, and this is his final stretch. Maybe he can't take it anymore, in that way, which is kind of interesting because
Yeah.
I will say I think it's in Brandon Ayuk's interest to wait until CD Lamb and those guys are also signed. Like, I don't think it's necessarily bad for Brandon Ayuk to wait for training camp. Do you? Like, why would he have the urgency to get it done now, aside from just the stress
I
that he?
think yeah, I think it's mostly that, and seeing I think there's been plenty enough of other wide receivers to have gotten paid that it's like, okay, this is the market. This is the ceiling. This is the floor. I don't think the CD Lamb deal is going to really change that much for Brennan Ayuk. So to me, I think him, like you said, he's pushing the issue for sure. To me, it shows me like not only is he wanting to get this stress and this weight off of his back, but I think he's ready to just go back out there and play football with his guys. Like I think he wants to, join the team for training camp. I
Yeah,
think
maybe he wants
that's
to
part
start
of it
like
as well. Like he just wants to
practicing
play.
practicing with Brock and stuff. It's so interesting because I feel like I had thoughts based on Brandon Aiyuk's story where I was like, maybe he's just out here just to practice with Brock and all this stuff. And then like once we found out they were actually doing a meeting, it's kind of shifted a little bit because we know why he's actually out here. But those same reasons still apply. Like he could be going to them saying, I want to be my best version of myself. You guys have seen the level of effort I put into this off season. I want to be at the facility. We know I think it was Nick Bosa. I know that Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle have all talked about like they've established their offseason routines and they know where they want to be, who they want to be training with, and what makes them feel the best. Brandon Aiyuk is one of the few, I want to say, I know Fred Warner is like this too, players that so far up until this offseason has stayed in the Bay Area the whole, aside from maybe a vacation, but he's done the majority of his training at the 49ers facility. So maybe he got to a point because I know earlier on in the offseason, people, even Brock Purdy had said that he had saw BA in the building. I think John Lynch had said that. So I think BA was probably training there. And then they got to a point within the contract negotiations where he said, we need to start playing harder ball. I need to remove myself. And maybe now he's just like, hey, like, now you're having me train, I'm in Atlanta, I'm in Reno, like I'm not doing my normal routine. At least sign me and let me come back and get ready here or trade me so I can establish a routine somewhere else. That way I can give it all my this next season. It seems like BA is someone who's pretty self-aware and disciplined. And maybe it's just something where he's like, it's getting to that point within the off season where to be the guy who is worth the money I'm asking for, I need to start, putting that effort in that maybe I can't do when I'm completely focused on my contract.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of this is speculation. Are you leaning more towards they leave this meeting a little bit, friendlier with each other, or do you think that the outcome is the 49ers are still playing hardball and Brandon Aiyuk is left wondering if he's valued and, maybe making a little bit of, it sounds bad to say threats, but, um, standing his ground and saying, if I'm not received in the way that I want to be received, then I'll either be holding out or making a fuss so you want to trade me.
I don't know. I have a feeling like I feel like the 49ers, when it comes to players that they do intend to sign, which I think they do intend to sign Brandon Aiyuk to a deal. I think that's why it's taken this long. I mean, because they're working on the negotiations and all that. I don't think it would even have gotten this far had they not wanted to get a deal done with him. And so like any time that I've seen players kind of push the issue a little bit, I feel like the 49ers, do get it done. So I kind of expect that for this as well. There'll be a bit of a softening up for the 49ers. Now, if they don't, again, like I think it's gonna kind of say the same thing. That, Brandon Aiyuk, sorry, I lost my I read a comment and I lost my train of thought, but
I also did. I was it the Jaden Daniels one?
Yeah. I mean, I was seeing stuff online about that, and I have thoughts on that as well. But yeah, I
Feel
just
that's
read
not
that.
a joke. That's a joke, right?
No,
I
it's
feel
not
like
a joke. Well, so Ryan Clark is saying all of this from the Pivot because Brandon Aiyuk joined the Pivot podcast, which Ryan Clark is one of the hosts
yeah,
on that.
I like that.
And so if you saw Brandon Aiyuk hanging out with Jaden Daniels in like the past week, which he was, right? You guys saw that. He joined him for the podcast. So
okay.
I think people were interpreting that as, wow, he took Jaden Daniels to the 49ers meeting. Like what?
That is
No, like that.
also
Or
that is
something like that. I
also
don't know. I feel like people are making that a bigger deal than it is. I don't think it's that big of a deal. They're friends. They hang out. He went to the
yeah.
podcast.
It's
Brandon Aiyuk
definitely
is
like
getting interviewed.
worded in a way to make it confusing. I just read Yeah, from Jalen Daniels Jay Daniels MVP. Brandon Aiyuk walked into the room with Commanders QB Jaden Daniels when revealing his meeting with SF today, says Ryan Clark. But I can see if you're just like kind of casually reading that, you're like,
The
wait, did
wording
he
of that is
Jaden Daniels to Levi's?
yeah, the wording is
Like,
terrible.
yeah.
The wording is absolutely terrible on that.
And then really quick, I wanted to shout out Mariah. She said currently crying. I mean, this is one of those things, like, once again, where I'm like, is anything actually that different right now than it was 2 days ago? But it feels like a big deal. I don't know.
It just feels like with this, it kind of feels different than some of the other reports we've been hearing, because some of the other reports have just been like business as usual. Oh, this is just what happens in all 49ers negotiations. We're at this part of the off season and we kind of like expect it. This one is a little unprecedented because I don't remember a player in all of these other like negotiations hearing that a player requested a meeting, although maybe Debo did, but I want to say that was maybe closer to the draft or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember, but yeah, I mean, this is definitely a curveball, I think, in the entire discussion of this.
Confirmation that Brandon Aiyuk is upset, because I think that was kind of the main discussion last week, was like, oh, he's kind of joking around with fans, and like he might there was this interpretation, and some people thought it was a big deal, but other people I feel like interpreted like Brandon Aiyuk understands, like he gets the situation, he's kind of messing around and having fun, like he's not stressed, the more he waits the more money he gets, where this establishes at the very least, like, no, Brandon Aiyuk is unhappy with how things are going. These players aren't robots, they are humans, and they have emotions, and they want to feel like the team and coaches that they played their heart out value them. Then we have, we had Brie Athena saying, I don't want to lose BA, and then directly under that, trade him. So, obviously getting a little contentious, as these things do with fans. I feel like that's another side effect that we don't maybe analyze as much. Like, not only does these off seasons affect the players themselves, and we've talked about cortisol within the body, which is a stress hormone, and how that can negatively affect your body injury wise, health wise, stuff like that. And then performance wise, because you're not practicing at 100% because you're terrified of getting hurt. Then you're not sleeping as well, you're not recovering as well. But also, I mean, when we look at guys like Devo and stuff, you see this weird, like you would also think, just from a business perspective, you want your fans to be 1,000% behind your players, because you want them buying their merch, going to the game, cheering for them. And these negotiations also tend to turn fans on players too, which is obviously maybe less important than like the player performance. But if you're solely looking from like a money perspective, it just feels like the way they go about this is, you know, not good from any angle. I don't see how they win ever. And to be fair, that has been my takeaway this whole time, but just a little bit confusing, but something to keep our eye on, definitely. Right now, are you thinking that it's more likely that they trade Brandon Aiyuk, or more likely that they keep him, if you had to put a percentage on it?
I think it's more likely they keep him at this point, just because there's a couple of scenarios in which they could keep him, right? Like, he's on the 5th-year option. They could get this extension done. So I just think there's more in favor of that side than to trade